Hello, this is Mornings with Michael for information and educational purposes only. I hope everybody is having a great weekend. Got some newsworthy information that came in. We're going to start with our PowerPoint, and our word of the day is degust. It's a verb, taste something to savor it so you appreciate it more. This, to some of you, this may be the weekend. You taste and savor your weekend so you can appreciate it more. The chef would degust each dish before he served it, taking small bites in order to sample every flavor. Well, what news do we have? Currently, U.S. military shoots down at least dozens of Iranian drones as Iran fires off drones and cruise missiles towards Israel. This is in response to Israel downing one of their lead military advisors in Damascus. They said this could be the end of it if Israel stops with the base, how Iran acts. I'm not sure if this could be the end of it, but this is what they're saying today. This is the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Just looking at this, I'm going to have a further look at our Japanese candles. This is definitely a bearish engulfing. And what happens after it engulfs this? We have a little bit of a dead cat bounce here, moves up. This is a doji where it needs further information. And this is like a somewhere between a hanging man and a spinning top, and it pulls everything down further. We got higher volume here on sell and higher volume here. So you tend to think this is going to continue down. And this is what is happening. The CCI is turning down and the stochastics is turning down as well. We look at the IWM. So I just noticed something on my PowerPoint I wanted to correct before we moved on. So here we go. Here's the IWM. We don't quite have a bullish and bearish engulfing here. The volume is lower, but both the stochastics and the CCI are heading down. This one tried to move up and then it turned its tail and ran further down. So we tend to believe. So on the Dow Jones, we have a target of 378.19 and IWM of 197.41. Moving on to the NASDAQ dived below the 20-day moving average. We watched this last week. What happens? This is resistance or support. As we can see, bounces off support here, pulls back, bounces off support again. This is a doji. And then it pulls back, it dives, comes back up. This one hit its head on it, and then it came up above. So now it's going to act as support again. Here it came down, came near the 20-day moving average. And here it's right at the 20-day, these 2 days in a row. And kind of dives here. This, I believe this was last Thursday, kind of a shot across the bow. Huge price move, kind of an expectation breaker. It tried to bounce the following day, didn't quite get as much volume. And on the price, the volume bar did not move as much as the day prior, and neither did the price. Looks like we got a doji here, and this is kind of like a hanging man. falls further here. Tried to bounce. This looked like it could be a breakout as it breaks above the resistance, and then it falls right below the following day. I know we had a news item about tensions in the Middle East, and we saw what happened when Iran shot a number of missiles that way. Is this crisis over? We just don't know. So we'll see if more news comes in tomorrow. We'll just keep our eyes open. This is the S&P 500, very similar to the NASDAQ. Here was the shot across the bow a week ago Thursday. Thought we might get a high here, but can kind of see pullback below. This 20-day moving average became resistance. Couldn't, but it's head above it here and then pulled back yesterday. Higher volume here. Both the stochastics and CCI, commodity channel index, are heading down. So 429.91 on the NASDAQ is our target, and 498.67 is our target on the S&P 500. So we got a lower high and a lower low here. So this is where we think it's going to be heading. So interesting, this is silver. This is a bearish engulfing, massive volume. So we think this is going to continue to head down. This is stochastics, and this is a CCI kind of flattening out here. On to the VIX, the volatility index, hit our target of 1888, pulling back. The VIX target, we think it's going to pull back and then bounce and go higher here, higher above this little dotted line here. So would that be 1950? Would that be 20? We'll just have to wait and see. Now, yields soar after a catastrophic 10-year auction with the third biggest tail on record. It's pretty amazing. So what happens? What is a tail caused by? Tail is caused by when there's lack of interest. So they got to raise the interest rate and drop the price of the bonds to get people to buy in on the debt. So this is what happened last week. And Costco selling as much as 200 million in gold bars monthly, Wells Fargo estimates. I don't think Costco is moving the price of gold higher. This is mainly central banks buying gold to prop up their currencies. We've talked a lot about this in the past. So here we go on to bullish engulfing. Now, everything in the markets is based on percentages. If you can get a lead on something that proves 80% of the time, you're going to be happy. Bullish engulfing often changes the trend. If it's been in a bearish downturn and you have a bullish engulfing candle, 80% of the time you're going to trend higher. Bearish engulfing, vice versa. Bearish engulfing, if the trend has been bullish and you see a bearish engulfing, 80% of the time it's going to change the tide and the trend is going to continue back down. If you'd like to learn more about this, head over to Sticky Trades. And here are some of the variations. This is a bullish engulfing that engulfs more than 1 or 2 days of bearish. And so a tendency is to move higher. Now, we've talked about gaps before. Now, if there's a gap above the market, this bullish engulfing will more likely lead to fill that gap above the market. And this is bullish engulfing on a doji symbol. Doji You need more information before you can confirm whether it's bullish or bearish. And this is a bearish engulfing just one symbol or a number of symbols in a row. And likewise, on the bullish example I gave, if there's a gap below the market, bearish engulfing, 80% of the time will go down, and 80% of the time gaps will fill. So this may go down and fill that gap, and that may be the end of the trend, and it may pop up, or it may continue further. So that is what we're talking about on that. And let me just stop the share here, share the screen. Go to our heat map. This is the heat map, how we finished on Friday. Apple is one of the rare companies that were up in the S&P 500. Some of the insurance names were up. One basic material and one other company, it looks like Fast, was up. So that was more of a chill map. Stop the share. Worried about your portfolio. This is a great place to put it. If you spent a lifetime building up your savings, you don't want to lose half of it as what happened in 2008 because you don't think you have enough time to gain back your money. When this goes up, does not come down, go up a stair, up another stair, up another stair, and continue the growth and save your money that you have spent a lifetime building. As you can see, it beats index investing for about 5% per year. And that is, if you want more information, they are now offering a 30 to 45% bonus for any money coming into funds. Feel free to get in touch with us if you would like to learn more about that. And let's find out. Here's our screens. So this is what we're kind of examining. I believe this was 2004. So this is kind of the expectation breaker here. What we've just witnessed this last Friday. Right here, this is kind of what we experienced. What happened after that? Always go back to your precedents. See what might happen in a market. Comes down to its 200-day moving average. And that's scenario number one. Not sure if this is the one. This is another expectation breaker, I believe. So you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days up in a row. Kind of expected to continue the trend. And then it pulls back. Once again, which once was support now becomes resistance. And it turns south. Then we can go over here to 2007. Look like we're going to go higher. And once again, we have an expectation breaker. Higher volume here, falls through the 20-day moving average. And then it falls to the 50, completely so the average downturn on something like this is 7.6% in the indexes. And we know what happened in 2008. Could it happen again? Anything can happen in the market. If the index falls 7.6%, high probability your stocks will fall even more. So it's just something to be aware of. Know what you're heading into. Everything could turn around next week, but you need to set up a plan and strategy to be prepared. So moving on, took a look at 300 stocks. Let me get to the right year and right day. We'll put this correctly. On to innovation in the semiconductor is in a flat base and a bouncing, getting support, did not pull back too bad, even though it came back 3.78% on Friday. GCT, I like how this is tightening up. I like this kind of formation better than when I got into it over in this area. It's kind of wild and woolly. Lift, as we've reported on this program several times, we bought the 1350 options over here, bounced up, and we are still in there. And we put on the $20 April 26 call option, covered call, and we'll just see if that allows us to remain in there, and then maybe we can do it all over again. SFM, Sprouts Market. You got all these institutional ants right here picking up shares, and it's in a pretty tight flat box right here, and it pulled back on the pensions last week. We'll see if it can bounce out of this area. Informatica, there's a story out there that Salesforce may try to buy this company. As you can see, this has been just riding along its 20-day moving average and just doing an ascending base. Micron Technology bounced up. It almost looks like a high tide flag, but it hasn't gone up 100%. Gapped up, has not and validated this gap here, and it's just been continuing higher. Exxon. This is a big portion of Warren Buffett's portfolio. Got a gap up here, hasn't violated that gap, and is just gone into a flat base. I believe this, yeah, this is a third stage. So third stage bases are higher potential for failure. So just kind of keep your eyes on this. Wing in the food and restaurant category. Look at all these institutional ants buying here. Pulls back to the 20-day moving average and is just following that 20-day moving average up. And on a day when the market is down big time, it's down only 0.5%. Weatherford, as we've said, we've had this in our portfolio back here from 65, riding it up here. We have covered calls on this at 125, going out to June. Also in the oil sector, designs and manufactures services systems for land and offshore exploration and production of oil and gas. This has just been working on a big cup here. Broke out, tried to break out here, pulled back. Got one leg up, another leg up, and finally it works on the third time. Pulls back a little bit to develop a handle, and it breaks out over here and has just been following the 10-day moving average. Moved down a little bit more on Friday due to, I believe, the tensions in the Middle East. Airbnb broke out here, kind of wild and loose. Over here, it starts to tighten up. Pulls back a little bit here. And we'll just see if this can continue up. And finally, ServiceNow. Kind of wild and loose here, like some of the other ones we've seen in the list. And now it starts to tighten up a little bit. Tighter here, so we'll just see if this can take off. Let's take a look at what was up 3%, 50% increase in volume. Only Coupang. Believe this is like this is the Amazon of South Korea. Believe they've raised their membership pricing. So this is a big gap up on Friday when the market was down, 242% increase in volume, up 11.5%. This was the only one in that category, up 5%, 100% increase in volume. Argan provides engineering, construction, and telecommunications. Gap up and huge move up 21%. Cartesian Therapeutics. Therapies designed to modulate the immune system to treat rare and serious diseases. Has been trending down quite a bit, but it did move up 7.5%. Looks like we are working on a bottoming base. It moved up right over here, and it's continued 3 days in a row. Globe Life, which has been refuting a bearish call. Q32 Bio has this little tight shelf. Got a strong move up here, continuing the following day, and then builds a tight little shelf here. and it just springboards up here and follows through. Eurocon, Eurogen Pharma. Pull back here, tried to move higher. Got a lower low here, and it is springboarding forward. This would be a double bottom if it crosses 1823. What's up? 10%. Believe we looked all three of them. And let's go to the news. International Energy Exchange trimmed its forecast for 2024 oil demand growth outlook for the year by 130,000 barrels per day to 1.2 million barrels per day. China March exports slumped 7.5% year over year, the biggest fall since August of last year. China crude oil imports in March totaled 49.05 million metric tons, or about 11.55 million barrels per day. After a stronger than expected CPI print on Wednesday, Bank of America and Deutsche Bank are both now predicting that the Federal Reserve won't cut US rates until December. Both had previously expected June. The Bank of Korea left its key interest rate unchanged, 3.5%, and ECB policymakers still expect to cut interest rates in June. But some think the case for pausing at their following meeting is becoming stronger, given a continued rebound in U.S. inflation. On to our sector news breakdown. In China, electric vehicle maker shares are down. NIO down almost 8%. Li Auto down 4.7%. And XPEV dropped overnight, as Senator Sherrod Brown said late yesterday. I'm calling for a complete ban on Chinese electric vehicles in America. We cannot allow China to bring its government-backed cheating to American auto industry. Good Times Restaurants, GTIM, quarter two, Good Times brand comp store sales went up 0.9% and decreased 3.2% for Bad Daddy's brand compared to the same prior in the year fiscal quarter. Norwegian Cruise Line has canceled more than a dozen cruises for 2025, according to the Cruise Industry News. Canceled cruises were set to visit Western and Eastern Mediterranean, Caribbean, Adriatic Sea, the Middle East, the Red Sea, Asia, and Northern Europe. And Norwegian Cruise Line pulls back to its 200-day moving average. Southwest Airlines expects aircraft deliveries from Boeing this year to come in at only half of the airline's estimate in March of 46, putting further pressure on the U.S. budget carriers' growth plans. Let's look at Boeing. They continue down on their safety problems, continue down, try to pull up, and once again, we can see this green line right here providing resistance. Continuing on to energy, industrial, and materials. Oil prices overnight, after reports of U.S. officials on the matter said American intelligence reports indicate Iranian retaliatory strike within days. What happened today? Freeport, McMoran, Southern Copper, and Tech Resources all cascaded down after trying to move higher. As we can see there, copper prices rise as data showed China copper imports rose 16% in March from a year earlier. For Teva, downgraded to neutral from overweight at JP Morgan, saying 2024 is likely to begin slowly for Corteva as a crop of chemical destocking continues in South America and Europe. And it's down almost 5%. DHT Holdings said Q1 of 2024 company estimates time charter equivalent earnings for its fleet of $50,900 per day. And they are falling to their 20-day moving average off 1.64%. Nippon Steel's $14.9 billion acquisition of U.S. Steel will be decided by the European Union antitrust regulators by May 17th. Let's see what U.S. Steel has done, down a little over 2%. BlackRock, Q1 adjusted EPS 981 versus estimate of 935. Their shares drop significantly, almost 3%. Globe Life issued the following statement refuting allegations raised in a report issued today by Fuzzy Panda Research. For over 70 years, our business model has stood the test of time, and we continue to generate sustainable earnings growth that provides long-term value for our shareholders. The White House announced another round of student loan cancellations for nearly 277,000 borrowers, canceling $7.4 billion in debt. Get your wallets ready, taxpayers, because you're going to be paying for that bailout. Brixmor Property Group announces Chief Executive Officer and President James M. Taylor to take temporary medical leave of absence, and their stock gapped down the other day. Must have been earlier news leaked out, as it didn't move down too much today. ULS announces pricing of its upsized initial public offering IPO of 33.8 million shares. It's common stock, and we've added this to our IPO list. And it was up $6.94 from the IPO price right here. Nurex has offered a $10.2 million spot secondary, priced at $15.50. And the shares held above that. It looked like they pulled back just below, and then they bounced. Advanced Micro Devices and Intel Corporation were hurt by the Wall Street Journal report that China tells telecom carriers to phase out foreign chips. Keeping American chip makers out of the country's telecom system. Both were down on Friday. And finally, we have two more. Applied Digital Q3 revenue, $43.3 million, below consensus estimate of $47.9 million. And finally, DocuSign, upgraded to neutral from sell at UBS, and it is falling about 1%. And before we leave here, we're going to take a look at Informatica. Looks like once they had a breakout and an ascending base, only one time fell below the 20-day. They just kind of guided along the 20-day and up. There's news leaking out that Salesforce wants to buy Informatica. Look at Salesforce. Some people say it may be difficult to push this through for competition reasons, but we'll keep our eyes peeled. And that is our show for today. This is Mornings with Michael for information and educational purposes only. If you have any questions on your goals or your financial activities, we're standing by to help you out. Sorry, I'm getting a little choked up for the end of the show for this week. Hope everybody has a great weekend. go out there and do your own due diligence, and we appreciate you tuning in. Have a great weekend.